Let's have a bit of fun till I downfall. My love, if you feel like I do right now, don't say you're on the run to the other side, my love. You say you wanna try, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose. You say you wanna cry, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose. I don't know what you want. Let's have a bit of fun till I downfall. My love, if you feel like I do right now, don't say you're on the run to the other side, my love. You say you wanna try, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose. You say you wanna try, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose. You say you wanna cry, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the North America Challengers League Open Qualifier, round number 2. We've got a banger here in the Group D matchup between Castleberry going up against Nigel's Last Tiles. What are we looking forward here to tonight, Anti?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, what I'm looking forward to is seeing Nigel's Last Tiles fight at full power. Last time around, yesterday did not have Nodal come through, and I would love to see whether or not the team can really come together in full force now that everyone's here on the table. Now, as we all know, Castleberry's very, very strong team last time around, made it all the way up to top 4. So a team that is not something you want to be sleeping on in the slightest. Pika Pika in particular has some incredible play on the support. The Nico played yesterday was crazy, and the Samira Leona bot lane was something that just did so much work yesterday, but unfortunately could not pull through. So now we're gonna have to see whether or not the rest of Nigel's Last House can really match up to Castleberry, specifically through the power of this bot lane. Because look at these two, they're just honestly such a huge force in this entire open qualifier.
Yeah, and they've also got a devastating Kate Lux that they can pull out that they have used up against the Ducky Getters last week during their match up that this Castleberry team can pull out. But I'm going to bring it over here to Nigel's Tiles. Like you mentioned, we are expecting Nodal, the main roster top laner, to be playing, filling in for Fodge. Well, Fodge is the substitute, so Nodal will be back in that starting position. Now, we saw Nigel's Tiles whip out the Ribbon last week, whip out the Cassante in their 2 series matchup against Wangtown. Now, do you think that we're going to see those are 2 kind of top laners that, you know, fit around this composition that Nigel's likes to play, given what we've seen out of them? Or are we going to maybe have a different draft based around Nodal's champ pool now that we can finally see that main top laner come in?
Yeah, I mean, I think that regardless of, you know, how much Nodal brings to the team in terms of a player, in terms of champion mastery, so much of this game is going to rely on that bot lane, right? I mean, if you look at the bot laners for literally any team in this tournament, but more specifically NLT and CB, these bot laners just do so much work for their team. And it's a matter of, do we want to play, you know, raise the puppy, you know, do we want to play the weak side towards the bot lane? Like, we have been seeing more weak side bot laners come on through with things like the Senna Ornn, but that's not really what we see from these 2 teams. Instead, they're opting to just straight up duke it out, pulling out things like the Ziggs, pulling out things like the Jinx Sona. Like, these are not necessarily compositions that you'd necessarily expect to see from a lot of teams, but they're being picked in good positions and good scenarios, in good times to use them. But I will say, Nigel's Last House have a mountain to climb, because Castleberry has been looking very good. It's just a matter of whether or not Castleberry can seal out the deal when they do have their leads.
Yeah, that's for sure. You don't want to let this team scale up. You can see that Wing King is not afraid of those scaling AD carry champions with whipping out the Ziggs and whipping out that Jinx. And, you know, they're going to be playing towards that strength here at basically elimination point here. Nigel's Last Tiles whoever wins this will go on to face the loser of Ducky Getters and Wangtown to qualify for seed number 2 coming out of the Group D bracket here. We have a full best of 3 fearless draft and tie. So whatever this team picks, whatever both these 2 teams picks, we cannot see it picked again. So that develops a new type of strategy for these 2 teams. Maybe they recognize that Wing King is strong on this Jinx. We saw a great performance out of them against Wangtown in game number 2. Maybe they like to draft that early on, leave that Varus open for Azog, maybe going into game number 2 and take a solid 2-0 off the board. Who knows? But here you can see our predictions coming over from our Talk of Titans podcast, which airs, I believe, every single Friday, so you should go check it out. And everybody, essentially across the board, is rooting for Castleberry.
Yeah, not necessarily rooting for Castleberry per se, but everyone anticipates it's going to be a Castleberry win, because while it would be great to see NLT make it through, Castleberry has the experience, right? We saw a top 4 finish from this squad the last time around, and as we have seen before, it's definitely a possibility to see some kind of upset from this squad at NLT, but it would be a first for the squad. It would be a first for the organization. So we really need to see these guys dig down deep and just bring in their full power if they want to do something like that. But in the end, across the board, the entire roster of Castleberry is just filled with incredibly strong players. It's not going to be a matter of just getting lucky here and there. It's a matter of playing straight up better.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you there, but we've seen things on our very own Titan leagues across the board where teams go up against the upper dogs and come out on top, not afraid. And what you might say, they are fearless, pun intended here, to play against these two teams. And with Nigel's last tiles on their last legs, you gotta expect them to whip out all of the trump cards, all of the tricks up their sleeves to find a way to beat this team. While it would be very devastating blow to the organization that we've seen have stellar performances in the past, it's critical for Nigel's last tiles to come out in the clutch here today. You gotta be expecting the pressure to be on both sides, even with a well-experienced organization, well-experienced players on both sides. They are still got to be feeling it.
Yeah, and I gotta say, all eyes are on this bot lane matchup as we have been hyping up, but that's not to say anything about the mid lane. So if y'all missed it, I believe it was last week, if I'm not mistaken, where we did see Castleberry versus the Ducky Getters, and game one, Aj popped off. Aj got a straight up pentakill on the Tristana, right? And it's not to say that, oh, well, you get a pentakill, you instantly win the game, you instantly win the series. No, they lost that series, unfortunately for them. But it was close. But that being said, right, getting a pentakill in the open qualifiers is no small feat, right? It just goes to show how well this player can really start to snowball with these leads, can really play these team fights, right? So as we said, a lot of the focus is going to be on this bot lane, but you cannot be sleeping on that at all. And as we've also seen from previous games, Skarner still cannot be left open. I don't care how much time and effort anyone puts into making that champion less viable. Skarner is still someone you have to be paying attention to.
Well, I'm going to have to disagree with you there, Anti, from what I've seen this past weekend, where the Mordekaiser has found very great success up against Skarner lately. But all the teams that I've seen picking the Mordekaiser against the Skarner have come out on top. It kind of does fully negate that champion from getting value in the team fight. And it's just an overall top lane carry AP champion right now that is not one to be fret upon. I expect Skarner bans to come out anyway from both these two teams. I don't think anyone's really been scrimming the Mordekaiser, but you never know here in the scene that we are watching. No Skarner ban is on the table. Instead, we have a Corki ban, so I'm going to be expecting a B1 Tristana pick here for game number one, potentially.
Tristana's banned.
Oh, it is? Oh, I couldn't see her face. But instead we're gonna get the Rumble. I could have said we could have got the Jinx either, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was super expecting to see the Rumble because that has been something that has been picked or banned away from Geiger time and time and time again, right? And while we noted that, you know, the Mordekaiser are pretty good into a champion like Skarner, and while we noted that so much of the focus is going to be on this bot lane, look at what NLT has done. That's 3 bans all focused towards Aj. Like, every single one of those champions is a mid lane focus ban. And now that the Zeri comes through, the immediate pickup of the Nautilus is going to be that point and click CC. Make sure that that AD carry doesn't get a chance. Just run across that back line. Might even be seeing some... I was thinking we might see some Kaisa, but instead we're getting the full-on Kalista for that laning 2v2 prowess. They know they've got the strong bot lane, and now they're going to look to snowball with it.
Yeah, and you're going to see the Alistar is going to be picked up in response as well. Great pick going up against this Kalista Nautilus combination. You know, watching the Nautilus hook in, you pull him straight back out, throw him back in, get the double knockups going down with Nautilus ulti coming down. The Alistar is going to be there primarily to negate a majority of that. And we see the Nyon ban is coming out too, was played in last week's series against Ducky for Aj. So are we going to get full 5 mid lane bans against this guy? No, we will finally have a jungler ban out, Anti. But now, are we going to see like the typical meta here? Most of the AD kind of meta mid laners have been banned away, is Aj going to pivot towards something like an AP carry, or is there a secret AD pick we don't know that might come out here?
I'm not entirely certain, because we've literally seen every single champion that Aj played last time around banned right here. So I'm guessing right now you probably pick up some kind of AD mid, pair it with a Sejuani.
Oh.
Azir will do just fine, in all honesty, but right now, right, what we do know from the side of NLT is with that vibe band, what that signalizes is we want to believe in our AD carry. We want to believe in Winking and Tyson so much that we're just going to take away more point and click shutdown opportunities. And what do Castleberry do in order to deal with that? They pick a point and click shutdown for that AD carry. So now with the Aurelion Soul on the table, now with the Maokai on the table, NLT have even more disengage, and this has slowly turned into a Death Ball versus Death Ball composition.
Oh, yeah.
Except one Death Ball is based around keeping their Zeri alive, and the other is based around making sure that he doesn't get a chance to play the game.
Yeah, I gotta say, we have two identical like Death Balls here, but two completely different compositions. We have a lot of disengage on the side of Nigel's, where there's a ton of early aggression poke engage on the side of Castleberry, and you're gonna be seeing it within these team fights, whether it's going to be Pika Pika with the early engage. Aj, you gotta be careful for those TP flanks, might be able to come over the wall with a great Empress Divide, get that Zeri split from the team, maybe isolate that A-Soul, that late game win condition with the falling stars coming down. These two teams have completely different play styles, but they want to do the exact same thing. It's going to be very interesting as we get in and on the Rift.
Yeah, and one thing I also gotta note, right? With Fearless Draft, it's not too crazy to see some of these crazy picks early on, because, you know, once you get later into the game, then you're going to start falling back onto your meta things. But in the meantime, right at the beginning, just go ahead and throw the pocket picks in, right? Just go straight for it, and the 5-man commit going to get immediately sussed out by the ward there. Beautiful stuff from NLT to make sure that we're not getting anything too crazy going on down there. But look at the summoners on Castleberry's bot lane. Just so much aggression from these two. We can tell that there's going to be some gank spot lane. Look, Castle's also going to be pathing from top to bot, also going to be getting sussed out by the early vision there. So NLT have a good read on what Castleberry want to make happen. And the question is, what is the punish?
Yeah, and on the opposite side, we see that the enemy jungler is out of Even Law, is starting at the blue side as well, but will be pathing up to the top side. Makes complete sense going up against this Rumble as Renekton, while Renekton can get that early lead by itself. Very good self-sustaining top laner, has great wave clear potential, has point and click CC, has his own lifesteal potential. It's still crucial to get that Crocodile a very early lead against a late game AP style Rumble. We've seen time and time again where our Rumble gets ahead early on, maybe 1 or 2 kills in his pocket, gets a couple waves shoved out, all of a sudden he's 30 CS above his laner, TPs into a fight bot lane, and absolutely turns the tide. And we see that the trades are already coming out between these two. They are not hesitating, not a single bit.
Yeah, and one thing I gotta note here, right? This Rumble has... Wait, hold on.
Wait, was that almost a misclick from Aj? You know, he's probably might be wanting that one back. Meanwhile, Nodal and Geiger are still going at it. Geiger has the flash. Is he gonna look for something? Flashes forward, forces to Nodal, and does not have the fire online to be able to clean up. But he goes flash for flash against his laner, forces the recall, and gets the wave under tower. That's probably gonna force out a TP as well.
Yeah, flash for flash right as the jungler is coming towards your lane is definitely a position that you want to be in if you are on, you know, Nigel's last tiles, right? Now that Geiger does not have the flash, needs to be looking to back soon, needs to be looking to stay healthy enough that the Maokai can't just come on in and force a free kill here. Meanwhile, mid lane just gonna be constant farm up between these two. I'm honestly a little bit surprised to see so much early trading going on with the Aurelion Soul, but You know, that's the thing about soul players, right? You gotta be careful.
And that is a great route coming out of Pika. Pika, the Ignite's going to be committed to. Maybe they want to force something in the tower, but instead are not going to be proccing it as Alistar keeps tromboling up the Earth on the Summoner's Rift in this bot side. But it was a great trade out, able to root up that headbutt. Tyson going to be forced to recall here, so I'm going to be expecting a wave shove out. Neutral objectives are going to be up in about a minute. We see Even Light prioling towards that top side, maybe looking to go for these grubs. It'd make a little bit of sense to get those, especially with a Renekton on your team. Having that split push potential can be absolutely massive, but instead we see that the recall is coming down, maybe looking to path towards the bot side. He has definite gank potential here going into the next dragon with the heavy shoves coming out of Kalista and Pika Pika.
Yeah, and not only is it the gank towards the bot lane soon, it's a gank with no heal on Tyson. So you can see, once again, as we've said, Castleberry are just going for one thing in particular, and they are playing around it well. This bot lane is a huge point of power for them. Meanwhile, in top lane, Geiger just going to continue to rock with the Rumble, something that was so desperately wrenched away from Castleberry as a team the last time we saw them playing, but in the meantime, it's more and more trades in the bot lane. Usually, this is when we'd see a lot more focus towards that top side as far as trading goes, but instead, it's just trade on trade in the bot lane, and mid also getting spooky, but likely not going to be seeing anything lethal for a little while.
Yeah, neither one of these mid laners have some sort of summoner spell besides their flashes that really can get on top and get the kills completed for one another until we hit that level 6 where we might see a falling star come out. We might see the Emperor's Divide under tower. But both of them fighting desperately to get that early lane lead because they understand the potential of both of their champions. The roam timers that Aurelion Sol has coming in with the flight across the map could get to an objective, pop that falling star, and get the win for his team here. We could see a shout out to Pro Comms. They're expecting Nigel's lost tiles with a 57% chance given the draft compositions that both these teams have gone with. Do you agree with this, Anti?
I mean, as far as the draft itself goes, I think that if you're just looking on paper for players who are completely even in terms of skill level, I can understand, right? I can make sense of this, but you got to take into account what each composition needs to do, what each composition wants to do, right? The algorithm alone isn't going to tell you about how much people have been trying to deny Geiger's Rumble away from him. It won't tell you just how much Castleberry just want to deny the Zeri a chance to play this game. Meanwhile, look at this top lane. Look at these trades.
Yep, no level 6. Nodal just going to be able to hit it now. The Dominance is going to be procced. It's going to be responded with an Equalizer. Burn ticking him away. Meanwhile, the Grubs are going to be picked up as Elias is able to roam up to help out his jungler, while Castle is just pure farming this early dragon. So it'll be a neutral trade off across the map. Geiger, no TP up, so is going to lose out a little bit on the CS here. But I think he is not too worried. The Oblivion Orb is going to be picked up as well to negate some of that healing coming across off of the Slice and Dices. But yeah, we could see this game is pretty much neck and neck in terms of trading. Both these two teams looking for the minute of errors that their opposing laners might come up with. Kalista pushing this aggression against the Zeri. Does not a champion that wants to play from behind. Is going to be hitting level 6 now over the opposing bot laners, but they're not going to find an engage angle
Castle
just yet. We might have a bit of a tower dive here. They're going to be going around. Maybe they're looking for Evaniel on the Maokai, trying to snuff out this blue buff where it was rotating to. Even Oz has come to join the fray in the jungle. It's a party up here for the blue side, taking the enemy blue side.
Yeah, I mean, it's a party up here, but the only one there is the blue buff. Not going to be too happy about getting super surrounded here. Meanwhile, top lane, look at this trades.
Whoa. Geiger is an absolute menace. Already forces the flash out of Nodo. No TP either. The Equalizer is going to be up in about 45 seconds. So he could look for the under tower pressure if he wants to. Doubt he's going to look to. He's probably just going to be trying to proxy out this wave. Maybe stop and cancel a recall. But there's nothing really worth... He trades his life here. He loses out a lot more than what he gains if he gets the kill.
Yeah, and if you look at that putrefying orb, oh my god!
Geiger does not care. He goes forward with it, and he's burning the crocodile to death. It will be croc jerky on the menu for this Rumble player from the top side. Meanwhile, this mid lane is looking to go into the favor of Ozg. We have a heavy aggression bot side. The Ignite's going to be coming on a Wing King and forces the flash out, but Ozog is able to retreat with a flash of his own. And that forces most of the summoner spells except the barrier. The heal was used out of Tyson just to barely keep the Zarya alive. We go flash for flash on the 80 carries. And this is going to be the Kalista once again getting another plate here off of just pure wave push and aggression. We're going to see potential tower dive here onto Tyson. The stun's going to be able to land onto Pika, eating about 2 turret shots as the Zerial comes down to be able to clean up the kill there. And now it's Azog caught out alone under the tower. The laser's going to be missing just by the nick, but it will be in the top side while all that was happening in the bot lane. Then Nono comes back and asserts dominance on his opposing laner, seeking out the revenge.
Yeah, Greed going to be getting mad punished here by the side of Nigel's last tiles. Castleberry just had a strong lead, just continually picking up more and more of a farm lead, more and more gold as the game progresses, and just tries pushing a little too hard, a little too soon before Kalista really has all that damage, before the jungler can get into the right position. As right now, we're just going back to the laning phase of the game, but you cannot be making those kinds of mistakes here if you're Castleberry, right? You want that standard, very controlled aggression. You want to just continue on this path towards that top 4. But NLT, if you continue to punish these mistakes, that is when we're going to start to see the window really start to come through, right? Wing King has just been doing so well with the Zarya, and you can see just why this Zarya is something that they're focusing this entire composition around.
Yeah, Elias is going to back off of that trade, but yeah, like you were mentioning in the bot side, I could feel that Castleberries, they're desperate to get that Kalista something into the pocket. They've been picking up plate after plate after plate. They overstepped just a little bit going after that Alistar under tower. The amount of disengagement potential that the Alistar has, and they still went for it was a greed play and ended up not coming out on top. And now the Kalista is inevitably behind because of it. Is going to be even on about gold. So the gold within the in terms of CS, for the gold within the lane is going to be roughly about the same. But yeah, you could tell that they are eager to make that play, get this bot laner going, and kind of pull that into this upcoming dragon fight that they definitely want to get those scaling.
I mean, if you take a quick look at the CS across the map, so a lot of it tends to be favoring the side of Castleberry. But in the bot lane, it's one of the few where we're really not going to be seeing too much of a lead here. One thing to note, though, look at those tower plates. So many tower plates on the side of Castleberry across the map. So even if the CS is relatively close, that's going to lead to that gold lead that we're seeing here. A 1,000 gold lead and still getting even more. Just small, quick trades from NLT here.
And
but
another one.
Yeah, the team with the early game composition that needs to be winning early is still finding ways to get their leads without getting kills.
And Geiger's absolutely cooking Nodal in the top side off of these trades right now. Meanwhile, look at
Trigger
Castle. Look at Castle just single-handedly taking the dragon once again in this bot side, and it's going to be up to Ivinio to find some way to trade this out, and he's going to have to settle for Castle's camps. And that's all he really can do if he wanted to. You see Oz is moving into the camp. So is Geiger. They're going to be able to spot out this Maokai. He's going to have to resort to smiting the blue buff. That's all he will be able to game for. I think he got the Gromp too. It looks like, according to the map, that he might have gotten the Gromp.
But, I think it was just the Gromp.
It looked like he got... Did he miss the
blue buff? Is still coming up.
Okay. It looked like... Okay. He did just get the Gromp. I thought I saw both the Gromp and the blue buff on the map. But yeah, that's all he's going to be able to trade out for. And Castle can move into this enemy jungle with the help of Pika Pika. And we see they're just starting to make that move now.
Yeah, I also got a note, Evan Lai just slowly building into that AP Maokai, just will be packing a punch. But until you get a little bit of health under your belt, it's honestly going to be difficult to go for these team fights, right? It's just going to be about disengage. It's going to be about getting the vision down with the plants. But when you've got the full squad roaming on into the jungle here, you got no choice but to just back off and let it happen, right? Meanwhile, in top lane, more trades from Nodal onto Geiger. And this time around, Geiger is going to opt to just back away, sitting on a lot of gold, making sure not too much happens. But now, looking for a big fight in the bot lane. Flash away from the Fate's call, and there's just no chance of a follow-up.
Yeah, and we see Tyson looking to make some sort of engage happen here, but Azog is firing back, wants to be able to pull all those spears away. The Dreadline's going to end up landing. Here comes the Nature's Grasp, and the ult is going to come out of Wing King in response, but Azog's able to find Tyson. First blood of this bot side engagement for the time being, and then you see a Fallen Stars coming in from this ASOL Castle, still able to find Wing King throughout all of that. He ate just about everything he possibly could and still comes out on top with the enemy AD carry. And meanwhile, Aj takes complete advantage of his opponent laner missing and takes that mid lane tier 1.
Yeah, I mean, look at that. Castle just hungry for skill shots, hungry for damage, hungry for gold, and gonna be eating everything we can see on the map there, including Wing King's life. And once again, a team composition that's fully based around this Zeri needs to make sure that this Zeri can thrive. And all it really relies on is one big team fight. And yes, that still could be coming around, but the more and more that Zeri's set behind, the more and more trouble we could be in.
The flash stretch line out of Pika, he was there for it, forces the flash out of Evan Line, and with Rift Herald coming up, that's a crucial summoner spell that's going to be out of this fight. Castle knows it and is looking to pressure into this jungle, get that positioning, and get towards that neutral objective. And like you were mentioning, Anti, this composition, they want to play around this Zeri, and Tyson was the lead engage of that fight there, so the cooldowns just weren't online to stop Castle from getting on top of the Zeri and just full comboing her throughout the midst of everything. I believe even the Fallen Star came down on him as well, and it was just not enough to stop him. You see, they try their best, but he still makes the space.
Yeah, I mean, look at that. Tyson just caught out with the ultimate right at the beginning, and in the meantime, everyone and the kitchen sink being thrown over at Wing King there. You know, Elias and Evan just a little bit split as to whether or not you play to save the AD carry or whether or not you play to get the trades back on the kills. And you can't have your cake and eat it too, and this time you're going to be dropping both. Not even going to be able to get a bite out of that one. The only thing they pick up is Castle here, but once again, Oz just going to be continually pushing in this mid lane. There's been very little in terms of actual fighting between these two. It's just small trades here and there, while Oz is just constantly pushing out the lane, and that's a great way to play into ASOL, right? You know, and see these roaming mid laners who just want to make sure that they can get their side laners starting to play the game. If you always shove them in, they're always going to be losing something for it. They're always going to be missing out on some opportunity because of that. And once again, the top lane, just constant pressure from Geiger's Rumble. There's a reason why this Rumble has not been allowed.
Yeah, I have to agree with you, Anti, but we're coming up on Dragon number 3. It's going to be Soul Point. We see Castle engaging straight onto Tyson. The Dredgeline's going to be able to come down, root up this cow, and he's mooing right now for his team to come and help him as a TP is going to be coming down. It's going to be Geiger entering the fight. Meanwhile, Nodo's looking for the flank with the Dominus. He's looking for the engage straight on to the Callista, and he will find Pika Pika in return off of the back of a falling star. It's going to be 2 picked up for Evan Line. Wing King is forced to retreat, but is going to continue to bounce in these lasers. And meanwhile, it's a great Empress Divide, but it's only going to be used for disengage here as Ash has to flash away, but is going to be chased down by the Crocodile, but he gets at least 1 in return for his life. So it's going to be a 4-for-2 trade out. Nigel's last tiles coming in clutch for this team fight. They're going to be able to pick up their first dragon, and a mountain dragon at that is not one to shy away from. Maybe
yeah, and this is exactly what I was talking about, Cilantro. It all comes down to that one team fight. The later the game goes, had it stayed exactly in that position for, for CB, it would have been so disastrous for Nigel's last tiles. But thankfully, Castleberry is going to opt for a fight a little bit earlier than they really wanted to. And Nigel's last tiles, once again, finding the opportunity to punish, finding the opportunity to go straight in. And just like that, this is a huge swing in
Geiger
momentum.
Has a flank angle. The Dredge Only's going to come down onto Tyson. The engage is being procced from Pika. Pika is going to get bounced into the pit, though. Is getting sucked in by the ASOL, but has yet to fall. Nodal is in the midst of everything. He's going to get rooted up during the dominance. Is at least able to trade out on the enemy support. Meanwhile, Castle is just chucking away at the Dragon. The soul point is going to be picked up for Castleberries. The Nature's Grasp used in last fight is going to be able to come out now. It's too little, too late for the side of Nigel's last tiles, and we're sitting at soul point for Castleberries after a promising fight from Nigel's last tiles.
Yeah, it was a great fight from NLT, but the one thing that they did lose out on was their jungler, and they're not opting to take a 50-50 against a smite, right? It's pretty dang hard to outburst true damage in this game, and Castle going to be able to deter the opportunity for that dragon take by pure virtue of being the last one surviving. So in the meantime, NLT are slowly falling further and further behind. The dragon stacking has been so powerful for the side of Castleberry, and now with the soul on deck coming up in 4 minutes, this is something that's essentially going to turn into a win condition here, right? NLT have that team composition that allows them to just play that disengage, play to keep people off of winking, but when they're the ones who have to walk in, it gets so much more difficult for them.
Yeah, and it seems as though they're making these engages straight out of Pika for the side of Castleberries, and with a Mountain Soul coming up online, they definitely want to give that over to their Nautilus. And they're not finding these angles to disengage. As Tyson's going to get engaged on once again. Castle committing the ultimate. The Fallen Star is going to be able to come down as Nodo is going into the backline with the dominance. Is already forced to retreat. Wing King is going to proc this area ultimate, looking to turn the tides, but is forced to flash out immediately. It's going to be a double kill for the side of Azal, looking for 3. He's picked up 3, but he's caught out in his sock. Aj is trying to poke away onto this Ace. He's going to get the Empress to fight over the wall. It's 4. It's 5 for the Callista. It's going to be the pentakill going into the Baron power play.
And I cannot believe it. Castleberry with a pentakill to kick off game number 1. We saw it last time. We're seeing it this time, but this time it's a very different AD carry. This time it's the marksman in the bot lane. Azog going to be picking that one up as Aj gives over his life to guarantee it. And with Callista alive, this is a guaranteed Baron. Should be able to even wait it out to make sure that Azir gets it as well here. Just there it is. Not even gonna give it over to this year, because who cares when you got the whole team sitting together. I cannot believe that Penta came out of nowhere.
Yeah, and it really was off the back of Oz there coming in clutch, because we see Azog get stunned up here and is getting absolutely pressured by the ASOL. The Equalizers burning all the members of NLT down, forces the Wing King flash away. You see he gets stunned up there, but Aj engages with the Empress Divide to stop the channeling off of the ASOL, and you just see this, the spears, they rip through the last remaining members of CB, giving Azog the pentakill to start off the series. Last week it was Aj, and this week it's going to be the AD carry.
Yeah, and what I will say is that game 1 for Castleberries has always looked so good, right? I mean, Castleberry right now, they're just going to continue to walk it down into this bot lane, try to make something happen, but the incredible wave clear from Aurelion Sol definitely does not make things easy. That's why we have the Rumble. That's why we have the split pushing threats. But once you can touch that tower, oh lord, they're just melting like butter due to the absolute damage output from this team. Castleberry in a great position here, especially with Mountain Soul coming up in just 1 minute. They're backing, they're going to be able to get all of the resources that are available to them in order to get so much vision across this dragon pit. And walking into a team with the Azir, with the Rumble, is something you do not want to be forced to do. But that's exactly the position that NLT have found themselves stuck in.
And do you fight this anti? I feel like we're at a position where you kind of have to. You don't want to give over free soul, but your win con right now is to probably get that third item online for Zeri before you could force any realistic fights here, because Azog's already picked up the Runins off the back of that fight. Is got this power spike, has the Baron buff on the back of him as well, and with Engage is coming out of Pika Pika, you can tell this AD carry is not going to be fearless. NLT, they've got to fight this one, but I mean, it's going to be difficult to come out on top. It could potentially be game-ending if Castleberry is able to pick up the kills here. We see Ergardi going to throw the Fates down. It's a great knock-up. The Equalizer is going to come down off the back of Castle's engaged this time around and forces the flash out of Nono with the dominance. Pika is forced to retreat. That's a great falling star coming down, but the support has yet to fall. Castle is still in the midst of all of it, and Aj is just cleaning him up left, right, and center. Azog still chucking in spears, doing his best Olympic Trials Javelin impersonation here. But all of the members of CB are extremely low. This is definitely winnable for NLT if they play their cards right. They have the members alive. They have the combos. That's going to be a great laser onto Pika. Can they get the burst damage down though? Wing King going for an engage. It's going to be the Emperor's Divide coming down, and that will be Aj already slain out. The soul has been picked up, but they don't have the retreating power. It'll be Geiger trading his life out for one. Azog still in the pit, unable to pull the spears out of Wind King, who gets the shutdown on his opposing AD carry. Off of that recall, it could be third item. It could be a turnaround for this NLT team, but this soul is not looking very promising.
Yeah, having to deal with a Mountain Soul after Castleberry has spent all of their gold is not a position I think anyone would want to find themselves in here. But right now, at the very least, Nigel's Last House gained a little bit of respite. That Sky's Descend from Elias did so much work in that last fight, just making sure that so much of Castleberry was disjointed. They could not all just immediately turn around. They couldn't just fight on their own terms. The beautiful thing about Aurelion Sol is that no matter where you're standing on the map, things might turn into a choke point soon enough. Once that ultimate it gets souped up and just drops straight on in. Once that E field is also something that you have to start paying attention to with all of that Stardust scaling up. That's when this champion really starts coming online. That's also why, you know, algorithms like ProComps would give so much credence to this team composition. Meanwhile, look here in the pit. The only reason they go for this is because they still have the Callista. They still have the possibility of going for this team fight, this full-on dragon take, as Azog just trying to dash around, trying to avoid the extra damage, just back and forth and back and forth. But in the end, no rend available. The shutdown going over to Winking. 800 gold under the Zeri's belt, and that means that's a full-on Infinity Edge for him here. And now with a little bit of extra gold, also going to be able to pick up the Last Whisper. So right here, we've seen not just an even up gold count between both AD carries, but Winking coming out on top by just a little bit.
Yeah, it feels like both AD carries are around the same spot now, whereas Azog had the advantage going into that fight. In that mid lane scuffle that we had, it was just Wing King's positioning. He lived throughout that entirety of the fight, through Castle's engage, through Pika's engage. All the CDs that were spent for that, Wing King was able to survive and continue to pump out damage. And now, with that, the longer that Zeri stays alive in these team fights, with having that tiny bit of edge over the Callista, it's going to be crucial that you take that person off of the board. Meanwhile, the purple worm is going to end up getting spawned up here. And are they going to look to start it immediately? See, Castle and Azog are already on it. Maybe they're trying to pull some players into the mid lane. They feel confident that this Xin Zhao and Callista can solo take the Baron, and they're falling for it. All the members of NLT have started to move into this mid lane. Meanwhile, Evanlai is just roaming into the bot side, and they're going to be able to take this Baron right from under their noses. What an insane play from Castleberry.
Yeah, beautiful stuff from Castleberry there. You can also see that Geiger had picked up the Elixir of Sorcery, just signifying that he was thinking, oh, we're about to have a huge fight. We're about to have one of the most important fights of the game. And honestly, that small little purchase that's very visible for the side of Nigel's Last Tiles could have been the difference maker to tell NLT, hey, oh, they're just trying to look to fight so they can go for this Baron. But instead, there's no fighting involved. It's just the sneak over from the Kalista, from the Xin Zhao. And just like that, Castleberry have managed to sneak in a almost 5k gold lead here. But once the towers go down is when we're going to really start to see things come on through. There's so much team fighting potential for this death ball composition, and Geiger's Rumble has been something just doing so much damage at all points of the game.
We gotta talk about Wind King here. He's gonna have that LDR online. He's gonna be able to burst through Castle and Pika Pika's engage. That's a 4-item power spike for this Zeri, whereas the Azog Kalista on the opposite side is still at that 3 items. If there's a fight that NLT want to potentially take, it's gonna have to be soon before this Castleberry's team can catch up. They want to push this 80 carry win con. Zeri is 100% where your team plays through, as well as Elias on this A-Soul. If they can find the angle off of Castleberry's engage, we might have a potential turnaround here in favor of NLT. Speaking of which, we got a minute before the Elder Dragon is alive, and you could tell that this Castleberry team, with their positioning, with the waves they're choosing to prio shoving out, they are already wanting to look to turn this and kill this one off CD, but we might have a fight here.
Yeah, I love that they opted to sync up the waves here, but right here, right now, you can see that the entirety of NLT was ready and waiting, looking for an opportunity, looking for an in. But Castleberry always going to be one step ahead of that plan as well. Just looking to immediately back off, just play to the win condition, understand that the Elder is coming up soon, should be easy enough to take. But I think NLT right now are looking for a fight. They're looking for an opportunity, and I believe the Elder is the only real place that is going to present itself for them, because you cannot fight into Baron Elder under towers. You cannot deal with Mountain Soul Elder as well, so you need to make something happen.
Well, Anti, you see here, the teams are setting up. All cooldowns are across the board. Everybody has flash, everybody has ulti, and who is going to make this first play? We see Nodal has been trying to find these angles on the backside. The Nature's Grass is going to be committed right away. It's a great double knock-up, but that's on the Castle and Pika. Meanwhile, the Equalizer is going to be able to hit this backline. Wind King is the first to fall within the fight, and that's exactly what Castleberry's wanted, as the rest are just dominoes on the floor, falling piece by piece by piece. And who needs the Elder Dragon when you have a full clean ace and a Kalista on your team to nuke these towers? It's gotta be all smiles across the faces of Castleberry, so they're gonna be able to take a clean first game win here within our best of 3 game against the Nigel's last tiles.
Yeah, and it was a beautiful performance from them as well. A few shaky mishaps here and there, but in the end, knew their win condition, knew exactly how to play it, and knew exactly what they needed to do to make it all come together. Game number 1 going into the pockets of Castleberry. So game number 2, it's just, I have no idea what we're going to be seeing next here, especially with Fearless Draft enabled. No more Rumble for Geiger could spell a different story, as we saw this last time from Castleberry.
No more Kalista either for Azog, so we might see him on some different Hyper 80 carry champion. Maybe we'll whip out the Jinx this time around if they decide to go for that. Take that one away from Wind King, who's not going to be able to play that Zeri anymore. Maybe we'll see the Varus return like we saw last week. Who knows? But that was an amazing game number 1 so far, going about as our predictions have. There's a couple 2-1s out there, so there's some believers that Nigel's can take a map here. And based on their performance that game, they did not give Castleberry the win for free.
Oh yeah, I mean, they definitely fought it out so many times. Castleberry would look for a little bit too much, a little bit too early, and instead, Nigel's last tiles would be immediately all over that. Now we gotta ask ourselves, right? Now that the strong picks like the Kalista, like the Rumble, these pocket picks really for these laners are off the table, right? What kind of compositions are we going to be seeing from Castleberry, right? What kind of opportunities are going to present themselves? There's no Azir, so we're not going to be getting any Azir Corki, but Corki, do you drop that ban in the later games? Yes, you essentially managed to not necessarily neutralize during that game, but the Azir was far from the same kind of carry performance that we were seeing from the Tristana, from like the Yone, for example. And that was so many mid lane bans towards this one player, but so much power coming in from both the top and bot side. My question is, do NLT decide to change up their drafting strategy?
Who knows? Anti, like you mentioned, it is a fearless draft, so we don't know what the drafting strategy is going to be. Do you take something away from the enemy team? Do you ban something? Or what? Do you pick all of your strong picks and just end the game 2-0? Or do you play comfort once again and go for a safe win? Maybe go for the guaranteed map 3. Who knows what the strategies may be here. But Nigel's Last Tiles is on the brink of defeat here. Match point for Castleberries when we come back. All right, everybody, welcome back. We're just about to get started with draft number 2. If you are just now joining us, my name is Cilantro. I'm joined by the lovely Anti for round 2 of the NACL Open qualifiers, where we have a lower division crucial match here between Castleberries and NLT. One of these two teams will not be moving on.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking to say, but the fact that one of these two teams won't be making it through is just part of the competition. Now, speaking of competition, I gotta say, Game 1 pentakills seem to very much be the part of Castleberry's competition. Like, last time it was Aj on the Tristana. This time it is Azog on the Callista. Incredible performances from both of these players. But Pentakill in Game 1 definitely got to be feeling good. But last time we saw the Game 1 Pentakill, it did turn into a set loss. So what do Castleberry need to do now, Cilantro, in order to take this Game 1 momentum and turn it into a full set completion?
Well, we already know the strength of their bot side, and we already know the strength of their mid laner, given how last draft went, where 4 of his champions were banned out. I can tell you that they've already got 2 win cons there, and you know, from reading over the chat during the break, the chat believes in the Geiger gap, so that's definitely something you got to be watching out for. In the top side, not going to be having that Rumble pick this time around. Won't have a Renekton either, so what is he going to resort to this time? We saw last week he pulled some things out like the Aatrox and even the Ornn. Do they put a player like this on the hard scaling tank champion like Ornn? Or do they go back to putting him on a hyper carry? Maybe we see a Cassante or Jax come out of him.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, what I will say is that being able to, not just being able to, but also being willing to play multiple archetypes of champions is a huge boon for the team. And Geiger showing off that he's willing to play not just the carry type champions like the Rumble, but also the supportive team focused champions like the Ornn is a huge thing right here. And I gotta say, right, Nodal's Renekton was far from a super crazy threat that took over the whole map. It was fine, right? It kind of was there, right? There was that one time where Geiger does get the solo kill in top lane, which I'm sure tends to sting a little bit. But the big thing about Nodal is that if you get these kills, you need to be able to snowball with it. So Evan comes top lane, gives a kill over to the Renekton. It didn't really do much, right? It kind of stabilized the lane, but if we're going to get these carry champions, it needs to be a little bit more coming in from this top laner. In the meantime, bot lane, as we said, man, that is a huge amount of power in that bot lane from both of these teams.
Yeah, I was going to say, the side of NLT, you cannot shy away from Wind King on the AD carry as well. It was a pretty good Zeri performance coming out of him, putting in as much as he could. Unfortunately, getting caught within that final team fight and falling first was going to end up being the killing blow for game number 1, putting a CB ahead. But many fights were turned, even in the bot lane itself with the ganks, because of Wind King's engage with the Zeri ultimate. So good to see him on. Maybe he whips out the Jinx. Maybe the Varus comes out. Or we saw Wind King whip out the Ziggs. This could be an AP carry type of angle. We don't know really until we get into the draft. That's kind of the joy about Fearless drafts, is nothing that was played last game will be played this game. And it's match point for the Castleberries team. You got to be expecting them to whip out all of the trump cards, take this one a clean 2-0. But it's going to be also up to NLT to take a couple things crucially away from the Castleberries team. I might be expecting the same type of bans in the mid lane, the Tristana, the Corki, the Yone, going away. Don't have to worry about the Azir this time. But that might open up something like the Hui getting picked within the first round of picks for this Castleberries team and solidify a mid lane win con.
Yeah, the biggest question I do have is, does NLT opt for the same kind of strategy? So in that last drafting phase, right, NLT kind of showed their hand a little bit early. It said, hey, we are going to be building this team around winking, right? It's all about this AD carry. It's all about whether or not we can raise the puppy, right? Create a juggernaut. No Kog'Maw necessarily needed, but a juggernaut of an AD carry where if we just put all of our resources into him, he'll be able to carry us over the finish line. And while that's definitely a good option on paper, and while it definitely can work in the right positions, because Castleberry was able to suss out that entire strategy a little bit early, they picked a lot of really strong single target point and click lockdown that you cannot dodge, right? One of the greatest things about Zeri was her ability to just get you out of a sticky situation, right? You can just dodge all these skill shots. You can do whatever it is that you want to get on out of there. But when you have to deal with the depth charge, with the Xin Zhao E to make sure that these point and click knockups are things you cannot deal with, it gets so much harder to play the game. But now Renekton is gone, Xin Zhao is gone, Nautilus is gone. Now that's 3 potential point and click CC champions taken off the table. So NLT have the potential to be going for another one of those protect the AD carry compositions.
Yeah, and we could see something like a Jinx Thresh be coming out. No Nautilus on the board for you this time around. No Alistar on the board. So what do you resort to next? I'm thinking Thresh. I'm thinking Braum. Something in that wheelhouse to get that AD carry safe in the backline. The Tristana's already going to be taken away. The Rengar and Ivern are in response. And this is where we're going to see, okay, do the mid lane bans continue for NLT as we have no side swaps coming out here? It'll be CB on the blue side once again. NLT wanting to take this red side again. Corki's going to end up getting banned out. Okay, now this is where you make your important decisions here. What do you want to be one? Twisted Fate is off the table for NLT. Very strong mid laner across the board. Do you take away the Jinx? Do you take away the Hui? What do you take away here? The Hui will be gone. B1 Jinx is on the table. Does Castleberry want to go for that? Kaisa is on the table. Ezreal is on the table. 3 very strong AD carries that can crucially carry this Castleberry team through the game. They're going to opt for a round right off the gate, feeling like this is more important.
Okay, so the Rel immediately for first pick on blue side is not something that we see very much of, but is also a solid takeaway from Tyson. Now, with the Braum pickup, I would be very hard-pressed to see a Rel Samira or something crazy like that. I think it's just going to be a little bit dead in the water, right? Sometimes you pick up these things just for denial, but then you realize that you're kind of stuck with it, right? Zac being on the table also means that if you do want to go for a Jinx takeaway, it genuinely becomes very, very difficult, right? Now, with the brand here, I would love to see Azog pilot that brand. A brand Rel bot lane could be doing a lot, but that could also just be going over to Castle in the jungle. Meanwhile, Yone comes on through. It gets through the first rotation of bans, so they're going to pick it up before they can get through the second rotation. And now NLT have a conundrum on their hands. What do you do into the Yone? It likely will be the Talia mid. We haven't seen that champion in the jungle very much recently. We could see Talia jungle, Zac top, so that's still on the table here, but we're very likely to be seeing the Talia mid. So now more AD carries taken away from Azog, now that you don't have to focus on all of that mid lane potential power picks here. Meanwhile, CB are continuing to take away more possible picks from the mid lane. It could be the Ezreal, right? It could also be Ezreal towards the bot lane. And now, one final ban on the table. No Darius, no Ashe. All right, so that's a good combo to take away from the Braum here. But now, to round out the composition, you need a solid AD carry with a decent amount of damage. Varus is phenomenal for this.
Yeah, and honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing this brand go into the bot side and you pick a Poppy here. Honestly, Poppy could be fantastic against this
Ooh.
potential Zac play. They want to go for heavy engage, but instead, no, they're going to be going for the Aphelios Rel. It will be Brand going over to the jungle. We don't see Brand in the mid lane too often, so there's no chance of that being Yone top. A Pantheon top, though. Or it could be Pantheon mid. That is possible.
That is certainly a Pantheon top. And I have to say, I love this pick right here.
Oh, baby.
Pantheon top has been something that has been slept on for such a long time lately. This champion just very recently got some changes, so he's tanky, he does percent max health damage with his W. He's just the perfect top laner for not only getting these early trades off, getting you that early prio, but also roaming around the map with the jungler, making sure that these skill shots land, making sure that you have the opportunity to make things happen, making sure that you always have split push threat here. So now, because of that, Pantheon for Geiger going into Nodal's Cassante. This could be huge. The last time we saw a Cassante from the side of NLT, it was not Nodal piloting that. Did not quite work out as hoped for, but game number 2 is a brand new game, and especially with NLT, a brand new team composition.
I gotta tell you, I believe that CP really cooked with this draft. I agree 100% with the Rel B1 pickup, because this NLT team has not shown any gameplay of fresh, and I'm assuming through their scouting, they don't see any in Tyson's champ pool either. So what tanky champion do you take away, given how last game was? Rel. Force him on to having to play that Braum, and now you can pick around it. And this team composition, with Geiger on the Pantheon, with the burn damage from Castle coming through that you cannot stop with Braum, that leaves it to Pika Pika getting those Magnet Storm engages to keep everybody in there, to let the Braum ultimate bounce around and tick everyone down. It just means that all you can stop is the Moonlight Vigil, Fate Sealed, and the top lane trade out. Nodal coming out on the weak side of that. Already seeing his Pantheon coming up clutch. Geiger, he's going to be able to cancel the recall, keep this Cassante within the lane. I'm telling you, CP, they've come out to win game number 2.
Yeah, and more importantly, Geiger's rocking the teleport still. So one of the big things about Pantheon as a whole is that the champion very, very good at using the ignite, right? Just very good at threatening a kill, threatening extra power in this 1v1. But Geiger says, I don't need any of that. Look at how much damage this Pantheon is outputting. Look at how much control he has over the lane without even needing that combat summoner. Instead, it's just going to be strength on strength on strength. Meanwhile, bot lane continued trades as top lane still stays strong.
Yeah, and the mid lane trade's not nearly going to be back and forth as they were last time between the two AP champions. It's going to be a great knock up there on the Tyson. The shield's going to be able to come out. The Shattering Strike is in response. Wind King putting out as much damage as the Scatter Arrow is going to be able to come down and zone out both of these champions from being able to retether. But holy, you can already tell from within the first 3 minutes that this game is a little, besides the top side, this game is a little bit more calm than the last game was, seeming how by this time around, there had been 2 bot lane waves already under the tower of Wind King, and both mid laners would be at quarter of HP. This game is seeming like it's going to be at least a little bit more calm, and as I say that, Elias is chucking rocks at Aj. You know, those swords, unfortunately, I don't believe can cut through boulders.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it has just been a solid amount of, casual aggression from both sides, right? Just constant trades, constant fights, but nothing looking for lethal just yet. Meanwhile, Geiger is just going to continue to keep Nodal in a rough position, but I gotta say, Cilantro, right now with the Braum, maybe we see it come through.
Flash forward out of Castle. It's going to be a double stun. Forces the flash out of Tyson. Wing King is going to be able to channel up a pointed arrow. Gets enough damage in response onto Pika Pika. And look at where Evenlio is. They're looking for the potential follow-up. The re-counter gigs. Azog is continuing to apply the pressure. Realizes he's caught out potentially. Is already forced to burn the flash, but the sling pull is able to pull him back in. First blood over to Wing King on the Varus. Pika is forced to retreat. And there was a great re-engage out of Evenli there after recognizing that Castle had left the area.
Azog just walks a little bit too far forward. Meanwhile, Castle trying to make something else happen, but does get the flash force on out by Aj, and just like that, at the very least, the brand is still seeing some extra bonuses here, but you know, that one little step forward from Azog has turned what was looking very solidly a strong lane for the side of Castleberry into what could be a disaster as this team starts to scale up on the Varus.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely afraid of that Varus. No doubt is forced to burn the flash the brand's gonna be able to come up to burn tick damage. And maybe if that arcane comet hit could have been enough to warrant some sort of tower dive. Evanlai has been at the re-engage angle out of every single one of these ganks, though. The positioning, the jungle tracking, and the pathing out of this jungler has stepped up drastically since last game. He's going to be able to find an engage onto Geiger. Not going to be able to get the stun up, though. Geiger maybe looking to be able to proxy up this wave and go for the turret engage with Brand. They're feeling like they have the better damage, that they have the better health pool, but we'll have to see how it pans out later on. Aj, it's going to be a stun. It's going to be a double stun. They're going to be able to take him away. Will they be able to burn out the Cellular Division passive, though? It's going to be 2 gone,
Lord.
3 gone. Castle is able to clean up the kill there. And it will be jungler getting the advantage on the counterpart with the topside gank this time.
Yeah, and despite that first blood going over to NLT, Winking falling behind on this Varus. It does not matter if you have the first strike or not. Look at Aj in the mid lane, just constant damage on damage. Elias not quite going to be able to trade on back, but the level up is going to do just fine there. You got to be careful.
Immediately, the stun comes down, and it's going to be a clean solo bolo for Aj, not respecting Elias. That Aj was about to hit level 6 and commit the fate sealed there.
I was about to say, you gotta be careful, because hitting level 6 on that earlier wave as the Talia means that there is no way in hell that your opponent is not about to hit level 6, right? The jungler wasn't exactly sitting mid lane sapping 4 or 5 waves of experience. It was just a few minions. It was just a few opportunities left there, and all of a sudden, Aj with a kill on the Yone is humongous. In the meantime, Winking right now still trying to make use of that early kill, but falling behind in the farm is not a position you want to find yourself in.
I have to agree. Look, speaking of farm, look at the top side farm out. Not only do you have the gold on the Pantheon, but this Geiger Pantheon is absolutely killing it in the CS department, managing these waves perfectly. Nearly stops the back there onto No Doubt. Oz just looking for the level advantage engage onto Elias once again. I believe was going for the early retreat there because he saw Winking, wanted to be able to dodge out the engage that, you know, Tyson maybe was looking for, but the first dragon is going to be able to go over to the side of NLT while the Void Grubs have been picked up on the top side. I like that the Void Grubs trade has come down for CB. It's going to be pushing this Pantheon split push as well as the Yone split push that will eventually be coming out, and they're going to be able to absolutely melt these towers. But this early game is already looking like it's replicating a lot of what we saw last game, Anti, where it's just a farm gap across the board for this CB team.
It's just been, honestly, the fundamentals coming on through super powerful for this squad. And I gotta say, Cilantro, I cannot believe that Aj is playing that Yone. Right? That is the fact that Aj managed to pick up so much bans, so much ban pressure from every one of his mid lane champions outside of the Yone is crazy to me. This player loves to play Yone. I mean, if you look at the Twitter, if you look at even just their summoner name, right? You know, it's not Aj, you know, hashtag NA1, it's hashtag Yone, right?
Moonlight Vigil committed as well as the Magnet Storm. It's a double Shattering Strike, going to be able to force the flash out of Winking, but Braum is going to be able to retreat, dash back to his AD carry, shield him up, and get the ultimate knock-up down. Going to be able to slow up these members from being able to collapse onto it, but they're forcing the CDs. The cleanse was procced as well for Winking. That's going to be telling Castle, ding, 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 I'm coming back again. Let me just farm up some camps and lurk my way back down to this bot lane. You better be careful that I don't catch you on the flip side.
I mean, Moonlight Visual just barely going wide. Definitely not going to be feeling the greatest about that one. In the meantime, I was just running in mid lane. This could be a little too much.
Does he get the kill though? One more W, is able to find it. It's going to be Evanline looking for the cleanup. Oh, commits the ultimate just to be able to trade this one out. Meanwhile, No Doubt's going to be able to go unstop. You want to see the all-out coming down, trying to pull this Pantheon out of the turn, but he's able to use his own ultimate in the middle of Casante's face to retreat to his own tower. That is absolutely absurd to me.
I'm telling you, Cilantro, the Pantheon is such a good pickup here, regardless of how reliable, how strong Casante is as a champion. Casante will do all he can to make sure that he can just get into a position where he can keep it even. There is no chance in hell that against a skilled Pantheon, you're going to be able to find yourself in a solid position, because I gotta say it, I think this champion's disgusting right now.
I would have to agree with you, and I think Geiger does too. His castle's going to be coming up. The flash is available for No Doubt. Can they get the stun off, though? One burn tick proc off of the stun from Geiger. They're able to find that one. Topside Prio will be re-engaged for Geiger once again. Doesn't even need the rumble for this one. Going to be the first one across the map to hit about 100 CS too. And across the board, the CS gap is just immense. We got 99, almost a 30 CS gap in the top side, an over 30 CS gap in the mid lane, and it's bot side where it's just about even. The gold is even out as well, as Winking has the extra kill. This time around, Procoms is feeling CB has the advantage. And do you agree with them, Anti?
I gotta say it. I think CB not only have a very solid team composition, they've got their players on some incredible comfort picks, right? You look at Nigel's last tiles, and this team, think to yourself, what does this team exactly accomplish, right? You've got a little bit of poke damage coming in from the Varus. You have the Braum for disengage into the Rel. You have, the ability to make stuff happen across the map with the Talia Zac combo. But when you actually are forced to team fight against a team with Yone, with Brand, with the Pantheon, it gets so much more difficult, Cilantro.
Yeah, and 6 Void Grubs have just been picked up, as Oz is going to be able to force Elias out of lane once again. He's got to be careful, because this time Evanline is there for the cleanup too. You see him moving towards this bot side. His bot side has the wave prio. Maybe they're looking for a disgusting bit of tower dive here. The ultimates are going to be online. Osh is going to be able to spot that one out with an early roam to the bot side, knowing that the Dragon's going to be up in about 10 seconds. They want to be getting the vision as much as they can on this one. This is going to be up to Aj. Push out the mid wave and make your way down to this Dragon. It could be a potential fight turner. You see Castle is in the bot side as well. We might have a full-on brawl here eventually, unless they decide to give this one up. You see Aj is coming down. Tyson, you can't block a Moonlight Visual and a Fate Sealed at the same time. You got to pick one or the other. It will be Elias coming in to the team fight too, to support the team, prevent the engage from Aj. The Dragon has already been ticked down to about 3k. The stun root's going to be able to come up. Tyson engaging that one onto the enemy jungler of Castle, but the damage from Aj with the engage off of the Fate Sealed is absolutely immense. He's able to pick up 2 within the fight. Pika is taking up as much as he can possible, but Evanline is able to trade out 2. That's the carry gone right then and there. Castle and Geiger are left to tank for Azog. The Pantheon coming in clutch for this team, and I believe it was a Dragon picked up through the midst of all that for CB.
Yeah, I believe it was a Dragon, but a 2-for-1 isn't the worst for NLT there. At the very least, going to try to pick up as much as they can when they can get it. In the meantime, things are getting worse and worse for them, because look at this. The Yone has only been seen the one time, and while it didn't quite work out for the full-on win in the end versus Ducky Getters, it was definitely not the weak point for this team. Meanwhile, look at this top lane. Look at this Pantheon. look at how much damage is coming through. So many plates being picked up. Geiger almost certainly will stay to pick up that 4th plate there, but that's so much gold to the side of Castleberry. And while we got a little bit more downtime, Cilantro, I gotta say, I wish we had some kind of a pronunciation guide. I'm almost convinced now, the later we go, that this player's tag is pronounced AJ.
You know what? That would not surprise me, as AJ is going under tower against Elias. Picked up that mid lane prio. Top lane prio has been picked up as well. It's going to be Geiger going straight for the tower clear. The brand ult's going to be committed. Evan Neal is going to be able to stop the straight up engage out of Geiger, but does he have the damage? Does he have the health to clear up this fight? It's looking like he does. It's going to be one more point and click CCQ combo, but the slingshot has the movement speed to be able to get him out of this one. But with Castle falling there, that means they're going to be delayed a little bit on claiming this topside objective, which is the reason why they wanted to go for a play like that.
Does he have the damage? What a question. Geiger absolutely has all the damage you could ask for. Meanwhile, this bot lane, we're going to see Azog just pumping out as much damage as possible onto the wave, also dropping that Moonlight Visual. But yeah, I gotta say, this Pantheon has been doing so much in the top lane. Odell just going to continue to try to stay alive against it, but
dodging out the Magnet Storm, the engage comes down. Geiger's within the fight. Azog's able to pick up their first of the game, and they're going to be continuing to go forward. Pika Pika's going to be able to land the knock up. The Shattering Strike is in response, and Geiger finds that one. The Magnet Storm engage, which looked scuffed, gave a little bit of hope for a potential turnaround, but then they saw the Pantheon ult come down, and the bot lane of NLT got scared as AJ is looking to continue to provide the pressure on to Elias, force them out of lane as much as possible. And is there anything this Talia can do against the Yone at this point?
I don't know. Like, there's just so much control coming in from this Yone, and, you know, AJ's just running away with this lane. The Bork has been fully completed, so you can't even, you know, knock the Yone out of lane in terms of sustain. You can't really just fight him 1v1. You have to just start deathballing with this composition. And now, you know, you look at the builds, you look at the players, you look at the win conditions here. And for Nigel's last tiles, honestly, so much of the win condition is no longer just placed onto Winking. It's placed on the team as a whole. It's placed on the ability to just fight together, to make something happen, to just start up some chaos and run with it towards the very end. But as things are right now, you need to group up. You need to make something happen. You need to make sure that you're not just falling down and dying, because this is the last chance for Nigel's last tiles.
And Anti, off the back of that Rift Herald, we're going to be approaching a 6k, almost 7k gold lead. The mid lane wave is going to get shoved out. I'm expecting this one to get brought down here. It's 40 seconds until that next dragon is coming online. And you're going to say, hey, take this little Rift Herald as a present. We're going to move down the river and take the dragon in response. You guys have to respond to this before you can respond to us, is what I'm assuming the game plan is going to be here for CB. They're going to wait out for the next little bit of mid wave. Look where AJ is going to be pushing out this bot side, looking for the little bit of a flank angle. It's going to be up to Elias to be able to mark this Yone and provide that little bit of cover and knowledge for his team. But here we go. AJ is going to be going straight on in, and Geiger is there to respond. The Fate Seal comes down. Don't really think you needed it, but it's going to be the butter on top of the popcorn to kill off that mid laner. Talia not having a fun time throughout this match, and Castle is going to walk up and say thank you to my top mid carries for gifting me this easy objective.
Yeah, I mean, Dragon going to be going down, essentially zero counterplay coming on in here, and we said that there was going to be a lot of focus around the bot lane, and I gotta say, there has been, right? There has been, you know, a decent amount of ganking coming through. Castle coming in, trying to make something happen, you know, Geiger also ulting in to try to make the snowball come on through. Evan as well came in, but also just made sure to give that first blood over to Winking. But with all of the praise that we've been seeing for this bot lane, for Azog and Pika Pika, I've got to say, Cilantro, this game in particular seems to be Geiger's game to lose.
Yep, Geiger and AJ coming out clutch for the team. It's another knock up onto Elias. Going to be able to dodge out the seismic shove this time around. And he is putting on a clinic against this Talia, which was supposed to be a counter pick into this composition that the CB has drafted. They were going to be able to say, hey, I'm going to stop this Yone from engaging. But, I mean, I'm getting engaged upon, so what am I supposed to do? And it's like the way the game has been going since the beginning, Anti. And they have not found an angle to be able to stop this. The 6k gold lead has been picked up for CB, and they're aiming their sights towards this next objective, the big one, to solidify that gold lead chain.
Oh?
They're going to be able to come down. It's going to be a slingshot engage out of Evan Lai, and it'll be a TP coming into the Fate Shield out of AJ. It's going to be able to hit the shield of Tyson, but the root comes down out of Azog, and Geiger comes in for the cleanup. Meanwhile, in the backside, it's going to be No Doubt running amok, is able to clean up the enemy support. As Evan Lai, the Celestial Division has yet to be procced. It will potentially be soon, but it's still No Doubt in the Cassante running amok in your backline. Somebody turn around and deal with this man.
Yeah, meanwhile, Geiger still sitting around in front, getting dangerously low here, just slowly stacking up to the empowered abilities, but now has the opportunity, looking for an all-in here, as with Castle, the sole member of Castleberry, sitting around with a full health bar. A beautiful fight coming in from NLT, able to pick up so much extra momentum and able to try to find some way how to halt a little bit of Castleberry's momentum here. And as we said before, right, it's so good for the side of Castleberry to be getting those game 1 pentakills, to be getting those, crazy starts to these series. But it's not just about the start. The job's not finished yet. You need to figure out how to fully end it all.
Well, you see talking about ending it all here, and it's looking like CB wants to do that and want to make a play towards this purple worm in the jungle. We see a match update there. Duck ended up coming out on top of Wang there. 2-0 victory. So whoever wins this match will be going on to face Team Wang. Will it be Nigel's last tiles going on for the rematch against Wangtown? Or will this Castleberry team finally get their shot at Wangtown? We will end up seeing. Meanwhile, Castle's going to be able to catch out Evan Lai. Elias already proccing the Weaver's Wall, potentially frantically, but no, the stun comes down on the Castle. Tyson looking for the engage off of that. The ultimate of the brand's going to be able to come down. The Fate Shield over the wall of AJ is there for the cleanup. That's going to be a Moonlight Vigil hitting the enemy 80 carry of Wind King. Meanwhile, Geiger is just dealing with No Doubt in this bot side. Who's going to be able to come out on top of this one? It will be Geiger as Azog cleans up Evan Lai in the river fight of the top side. And it will be looking like it's all CB. It was Castle the one potentially caught out, but they turned it in their own favor there, CB coming out on top.
Welcome to my favorite part of League of Legends, Cilantro. It is my one and only favorite part. It is what we like to call the Schrodinger's catch, where you have one person on one team who starts to get caught out on repeat, but because of that, their teammates always in the area, always ready to make it happen. So as the enemy team, you have to wonder to yourself, is this player actually caught out, or are we being baited? And until that fight is actually taken, it's a big question as to who actually does come out on top here. AJ just going to continue to farm up that side lane. And Geiger versus Nodal, I gotta say, Nodal's been playing well, but it's so unbelievably difficult to deal with a Pantheon in a side lane, especially an armor stacker. Oh my god!
Oh, what do we say? What do we say? That was literally like...
Goodbye, Elias! Goodbye!
That's like Mike Tyson in his prime smacking around Logan Paul, dude.
Like, it's just not okay. This Pantheon now 6-0 scoreline. So unbelievably high damage, but not only that, ridiculously difficult to kill. Now, especially with picking up the Sundered Sky, even has extra survivability with the second Ocean Drake. And I gotta say, Cilantro, if they pick up a soul, this game goes from difficult for NLT to nigh impossible. That is level 15 on Geiger. Once he hits level 16, he'll get even more percent armor penetration, and it'll be even more difficult for Nodal to get past that. There's no more Anathema's chains. There's no way to really mitigate the damage from the Pantheon, barring armor, but the champion's so good at dealing with armor.
Oh, and there goes Geiger once again, finding the engage and the stun onto Evanlai, being the front line, being the shield for his team, while Nodal is looking for the angle to the back line, but this time, it was CB ready for it, and Azog is there to punish, and it will be AJ looking for another engage. The Moonlight Vigil is going to end up going wide, but that's okay. We all have a zoning ult here, and then Castle baiting up Tyson, who's going to be able to shield up the stun, is going to stop the ulti from being able to bounce to his teammate Elias, but the damage has already been done. The burn is already ticking away, and CB is already moving over to the Baron. If they can get this, the gold lead is sure and well enough solidified. Evanlai is back into the fight, but face check straight into the front line, is forced to slingshot away, but that's going towards the back line of CB. It seems like everywhere you go across this map, there's a Geiger waiting for you, because he's able to pick up the flash stun on to this Talia. AJ looking to continue to go forward and pick off even more. He's bloodthirsty, but they will have to retreat when King and Tyson still looking to make something happen here. The enemy, their jungler, is still alive. Evanlai may be able to slingshot across, may be able to find something. Geiger is applying pressure. They have to respond to this man. Somebody has got to shut him down, but they're not able to find it. He's looking for the point and click CC. The Chains of Corruption are going to go completely wide, and it will be a great Magnet Storm from Pika Pika, going to go ahead and proc that cellular division as AJ is able to clean up onto Tyson. It will be Evanlai falling next to Nodal, returning to the fight just to get Chain CC'd once again, and has to flash away, but will not get away. TP is going to be in response as Elias is coming back into this fight, but everyone's already done fighting. It's too little, too late for NLT.
Did Geiger heal off of that fight? What the hell? I cannot believe that CB have such a huge lead. So many times NLT say, all right, we have a pick. We have an opportunity. We finally can make something happen, and every single time Castleberry say, no you don't. This is our time to shine. This is our ticket into that top 4 opportunity. Geiger's just walking down mid lane.
Stop walking at this man, please. You have to stop at some point.
And not only does the Pantheon do so much damage, look at that all in, right? You know, they jump directly on top of Geiger with 3, with all the CC in the world. Geiger pops the empowered E, and all of a sudden he's way tankier than anyone can deal with. And look at this, it's not just Geiger.
Evanlai gets a great slingshot in. The pointed arrow is going to be a ton of damage as Brahm's going to respond with an ulti as Nodal is once again looking to get into the back line. He's on Castle and is able to at least trade his life out 1 for 1. But they're waiting, looking for this wave. Azog is able to find a kill, and look at how far AJ just went across the map with the tethered. It was absolutely crazy, but it will be CB picking up game number 2. They tell Nigel's last tiles this was your last chance and your last time playing in open qualifier number 2 as Castleberries take the game 2-0 in, let's be honest, dominating fashion.
Yeah, game number 2, incredible stuff from Castleberry there. AJ popping off on the Yone. Beautiful stuff as always from the bot side of the map, but Geiger's play on that Pantheon in that top lane, what the hell? I honestly think a large part of it does have to do with the champion pick in the right position, in the right moment, but we have to give credit where credit is due. So much of that still comes from Geiger being able to pilot that champion with alarming efficiency. Castle as well with the brand pick, just making sure to be across the map in the right place at the right time means that team fights are taken care of, side lanes are taken care of. There's just so few avenues for NLT to deal with, and in the end, Castleberry coming out on top, going to be fighting it out against Wongtown later on.
Yeah, if I had to say anything about those two games, I mean, what else can we say besides Geiger Gap? Like, let's be quite frank here. Those two games, he ran amok, and Nigel's last tiles did not have a chance of stopping him. I'm super excited. I don't know when I'm assuming these two are going to play next weekend. I don't know if we'll both be here to watch it, but we will see what goes down next week when these two teams battle it out. And I believe that does that solidify Duck as. Can we go back to the bracket one more time, production? I just want to see if Duck, does that solidify Duck in the qualified numbers? Yes, that does solidify Duck as the qualified seed #1 coming out of Group D. So next week we will have a match between Castle and Wongtown to go for the qualified seed #2, and you know Castleberry are going to be coming out swinging. That's going to be one hell of a banger.
All right. That is going to be a huge banger. So make sure you do not miss that. And if you're interested in finding out more about these teams, more about the tournament, make sure to catch a Talk on Titans. But in the meantime, thanks everyone for tuning in to this set here. And we just got to say, once again, make sure to catch the matches next time around, because as you've seen, it's some high quality League of Legends. In the meantime, y'all take care.
side to side. Without you by my side, my side, my side. Without you by my side. One time from side to side. Peekaboo, I see you, peekaboo, I see you. Looking at me, looking at you. Hold up, where you going? What you doing? Who you seeing? What you need? What you want? I said, without you by my side, my side, my side. Without you by my side. One time from side to side. Without you by my side, I can't go outside. Without you by my side, I can't go outside. Without you by my side, I can't go outside. One time from side to side. If you want, just come. Don't leave me again. Leave me again. If you want, just come. If you want, just come. Don't leave me again. Leave me again. been all around the globe trying to protect your soul.